Hello and welcome to this edition of High Vibe Nation. I'm going to be having this amazing guest today who's changing the world about being your best self. And we talk about struggle over triumph. And so stay tuned because you're going to love this amazing guest that I have coming up.
The High Vibe Nation is live. Welcome to the High Vibe Nation. The goal is to raise the vibration of every human being on the planet. Your host on this journey is Sherry Gideon. So let's join her now in her current interview with a high-vibing individual.
And welcome back to High Vibe Nation. I'm your host, Sherry Gideons, the #1 positive media show focused on raising the vibe of the planet, a space for you to remember the power within you. And today's guest is the amazing Jason Freeman. And whenever Jason speaks to an audience, be it an intimate mastermind in North County, San Diego, or an assembly of 1,500 school students in Austin, Minnesota, he's absolutely 100% committed to bringing his speech impediment with him. And audiences see him up on stage against all odds, living his dream, which helps them to see their dreams as closer and more attainable. And Jason has a unique walk and a love for country, a love for music, a sweet tooth, a master at fine arts and poetry, and a Tedx Talk, and a book he authored called Awkwardly Awesome, Embracing My Imperfect Best. His goal is to speak to millions of people in his lifetime, and he hopes to inspire them to see the best in themselves, take their next step forward, and persevere towards their dreams, not only for themselves, but for the health and happiness of generations to come. And I am honored and privileged to introduce our amazing guest, Jason Freeman. Hello, Jason.
Hi, hey, Sherry. I'm happy to be here on High Vibe Nation. It's an honor.
Awesome. Well, that's what this show is all about. It's about holding a space for people to, remember their best selves, the power of who they are in here. And despite the appearances of things, there really is a special, unique gift of them on the inside. So I love to ask the question of all of my guests, what does it mean to be high vibe to you?
What does it mean to be high vibe to me? It basically means using everything in our lives, our gifts as well as what we perceive as our limitations at the moment to move forward, to grow, to expand. I mean, so often we do the tug of war dance instead, and we see the good stuff and we're like, yay, but we see the negative stuff in ourselves and we're like, no, yay, and we kind of pull our energy apart, but to be able to use it all to move in the direction we want to go is, to me, that's high vibing and very challenging.
I love that. Awesome. Well, bring us a little bit up to speed. Tell us a little bit about your life and where you're at right now.
So we all have challenges navigating to the place we want to go, because any good adventure has challenges in us, and our lives are no different. And so maybe I knew this before my life began and wanted to get going on my challenges very early on, So when I was born, I came a few weeks early and surprised my parents in the middle of the night. Surprise! And I found a way that adults are either sleeping in the middle of the night or busy doing other things. And either way, they don't want to be disturbed. In the process, my umbilical cord became kinked like a garden hose, which makes it difficult for me to say the word umbilical. Luckily, we got to the emergency room in time. Sherry?
Yes, I love that you said that luckily we got to the emergency room in time, because here's the thing. What I realize about you and even myself is that we required these experiences so we would know what it was like to meet people right where they're at, to understand what it's like to be in those shoes of most of human beings' feelings and emotions, or what I like to call the illusions that we set up for ourselves in our own habits of thought. And so when I was looking and really just researching about your book, I mean, one of the things that comes up for me is that I know how unbearable, limiting, certain different situations and limitations can be. And so when we talk about your book, the concept of imperfect best, it kind of sounds like a hopeless contradiction. So how can it be that you can use that as a tool for people and organizations and helping them on their way? How do you share that when you go into an organization?
So first of all, I could have spent my entire life, whether I got 60 years or 120 years, I could have spent my entire life focusing on my voice as a limitation and being, if only I had been born normally, my life would have been great. That could have been my entire life. I could have just stuck with my version that what I didn't perceive as perfect within me was so imperfect, and just gone farther and farther down that road. But and we are all free to do that with anything we think is imperfect in ourselves, to just dwell on it and just to use it negatively over and over again. And I did that for some of my life. A lot of it. It was a battle with myself, but I found out eventually it didn't get me to where I wanted to go. So I started wondering, how can I use the same speech impediment, the same body that has unique coordination, in a way that's a gift. And the answer that slowly emerged was I could become a public speaker. I could learn yoga. And through those answers, through pursuing those answers actively, and also meditation, my life has transformed. So when I speak to either students or companies, the big question I want to discuss with them is how can you move everything towards the best of your individual vision or your corporate vision, so you're not battling against yourself, or for a company there's not factions battling against each other and sabotaging what we all want to emerge, the best that we can be, and the best that we can be as a community.
Yeah, I could see that. Take us back a little bit to when you were growing up, when you were a child. And I mean, I'm sure you were bullied and you had people making fun of you and stuff like that. Did you come back at them with anger and rage, or did you react with, anger, or did you just kind of go into yourself and was by yourself a lot?
I was fairly, I was really lucky. I'm a only child of two living parents, and then I had a lot of friends actually, but especially in 7th grade, there was one big bully in my life who just never let up. He was at me day in and day out. He hated the sound of my voice. He hated my coordination. He hated that I was always stressed out about pimples all over my face. He hated that I was a klutz. Do you have any idea who that bully was?
Who?
And it took me a long time to recognize this, but that bully was me. I was far worse to myself when I was young than anyone else was to me. I mean, generally the people around me were cheering me on and trying to bring out the best in me, but for a long time I wasn't having it. I was like, no, I think I'm not good, and I'm right about that. And whatever you say, you're not going to convince me otherwise. And that leaves the people who loved me, left the people who loved me in such a bind, because there's no way to convince someone else of their brilliance unless they're willing to receive their own brilliance.
Yeah, I can so relate to that. And was there a certain moment, was there a certain thing that happened in your life that all of a sudden you're like, aha, you know what? I want to be who I truly am. I want to be my best self, and I'm no longer going to bully myself. Was it meditation? Was it an event?
So first of all, during my 7th grade year, I attempted to take my own life, but I realized when I was down in that depth that my heart wasn't in that, and I called for help. So that obviously was the first step. Beyond that, I wish I could say there was one big magical epiphany moment. Or maybe I don't wish that. But in any case, there wasn't one moment. It was more like a gradual progression, like including things like learning how to drive, which I didn't think I could do, graduating high school, college, grad school, and then I mean, really, I accomplished things that went against the image I had of myself, and that helped. But what really helped was my aunt and uncle told me, "Hey, Jason, you should do yoga." This was some years after college, and at first I was like, "What? I have cerebral palsy. I don't do yoga. That's crazy talk." But I was nice to them about it. You know, when someone suggests something and you think it's a good idea, but you have no intention of doing it whatsoever, But you're like, yeah, oh yeah. But
I get it.
but a few months later, I was so miserable. I'm like, I'll just do a little something. So all I did was walk down to the YMCA and got a $35 membership with the intention of doing yoga. I didn't even do yoga the first day, but that tiny, idiotically small step changed the course of my life because I eventually got into yoga. And through yoga, I learned to put space between my negative thoughts, more space between my negative thoughts and my actions. So I could still think a negative thought because our mind thinks everything. And but then I would feel it, but then I could choose to act differently. I didn't have to go down that self-loathing path.
Well, it sounds like too that there was, I mean, it sounds like what you were saying in the beginning was you got to that point where you were sick and tired of being sick and tired of feeling the way that you felt. And then there was this tiny shift within you that was almost like, why don't I at least try it? Why don't I go observe and open myself up? And now what's happening too is now you've engaged in taking the inspired action. And then now you're experiencing a whole different way of being able to observe your thoughts and catching them before you let yourself go down that road of negativity and your old habit of behaving in a certain way. And that the yoga was an avenue for you, a tool that you began to utilize that gave you power.
Yeah, exactly. Because unless we know how to observe the mind and then choose our actions, the mind's just going to take us on a crazy ride. And Robert Booker says, yes, I can look back at riding the hype train often, bright, shiny opportunity syndrome.
And then he goes on to say this.
But back then, even hype was very welcome for the emotional energy that was generated. Yeah, that's a good point, Robert. So, sometimes, like, there's no one way to move beyond our patterns of self-loathing. I mean, bright, shiny objects are a lot better than feeling totally miserable about ourselves. So yes, maybe the hype train at some points in our lives is like, yeah, the hype train.
Yep. Yeah, well, exactly. And I think most of us go through all that. I myself went through that during my own period of awakening. And it was in that place that I finally realized that I was ready. I was ready to finally let go of, all the opinions of other people and the hateful things they said about me, because I've always been a very boisterous, over the top, playful person. And to some people that was too much. And like even my kids today, they call it extra. They say, oh yeah, mom's too extra. But you know what? I love that you're sharing this because that's what I learned about myself as well, that I learned to just be myself, to be my best self. And the people that were ready to surround themselves with me, they wanted to be more in that light. And the people that weren't, they fell away.
And there's 7 billion people or whatever in the world. So we don't need all 7 billion of them to be surrounding us and going, yay, yay, yay. we do need, we have an opportunity to find our people, and for them to find us.
Absolutely. And that leads me into, I love these tools that you're sharing, because really, not only are the stories so powerful and important that help people to kind of grasp, your hero's journey, but share with us some of the more simple tools that you used on your own hero's journey to navigate through some of this turbulence and these troubling times that you were dealing with within yourself. You were battling yourself, it sounds like.
Well, I mean, yoga, meditation, of course, but another tool that I love, and I started using it, started writing poetry in high school, but in more recent years, I have a writing practice where I sit down on my computer. A lot of people would like writing longhand, but just writing for 10 minutes or 20 minutes with no expectations of what it needs to be. And it needs to be, doesn't need to be spelled right or have the correct punctuation or anything, but just giving the mind time to get itself all beyond the confines of the head and onto paper. It's a magical experience.
Absolutely. So how would you say that a person starts out? Just sit with it and just start writing, no particular direction, just open themselves up to write whatever comes?
I would say that, and there's books on this, like Natalie Goldberg's Writing Down the Bones, but just sit with yourself and the computer paper, and I mean, no, at first it might be very uncomfortable to write down just whatever comes in. Your mind might be going, hey, you didn't write the correct word there. What the heck are you writing? This is not good. But it's like developing any muscle. The more you do it, the stronger you get at it. And I also would advise starting with a short term, like start by trying to do it for 5 or 10 minutes instead of 30 minutes or half an hour, because that can just be too overwhelming.
Mm-hmm.
And two great books on this are Natalie Goldberg's Writing Down the Bones and The Artist's Way by Julia Cameron.
I love that, because I mean that's a habit that I've created for myself too, and I do that a lot in the morning, first thing when I wake up, and I always start out in my gratitude journal. I'm so happy and grateful now that. So I'm writing from this place that I'm feeling. I'm in touch with the things as if they're already true now. And I'm generating that higher vibration and frequency of my vision, of my dreams, of my joy, what it feels like in that moment to be from that place. So I love that you're sharing these simple tools, because here's the thing. We have been trained and with this modeled behavior, because I don't know about you, but I came up during the 60s. And during that time, the opinion of society was that life is hard, money doesn't grow on trees. We're always told that the mistakes we make are bad. And that's, back in my day, it was religion. And we were told that, Satan's going to come get you if you make these choices like this that are so-called bad. And so it's hard for people to realize that we can take simple steps, that we can use simple tools, and they really do make a difference.
Yeah, I would say simple tools. Without simple tools, I definitely wouldn't be where I am.
Mm-hmm.
Another tool I use all the time, and it sounds so bland, but organizing and making lists. I have my own unique way of making lists on the computer, but 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 doing these things for me makes life so much more simple. It's without a list, I have 50 things going on in my head, and I'm trying to remember them all and then trying to do whatever I'm doing next, but trying not to forget it. It becomes this awkward game of memorization and getting confused and forgetting. But if I can write things down and do them step
List.
by step, yeah, list. But let's talk about that a little bit. I mean, when we're on High Vibe Nation, how is a list high vibe? It seems so boring and so mundane, something that our grandparents would tell us to do.
Well, here's the thing that I think about lists. What lists do is they help us to, oops, got somebody calling in here. I have everything hooked up to my Mac computer. So of course the beep goes off. But yeah, as far as lists for myself, what that does is it releases energy. It takes pressure off of me, which is what I call a lower vibration, anything that causes stress. So when I'm over here trying to think, like you said, think about all these things I need to do, what am I doing? I'm feeling stressed because I'm trying to remember. I'm feeling anxiety because I'm trying to remind myself that I've got these things I need to do.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I write the lists for myself, it allows me to free myself up because I know that all I need to do is look at the list and I can check things off as I go. And if I don't finish what was on my list, then now I do what's called a Trello board on the computer. And so now I have my lists on the to-dos, and then I have done, so I can move it over to done. And then you get that feeling when you talk about high vibe, you get that feeling like, holy mackerel, I accomplished something. Honestly, when we talk about frequencies and vibes, that's the feeling that gets created in when you open up that space that you've accomplished something.
When I was my lowest in seventh grade, I didn't feel like I had the power to really accomplish anything that was worth anything. So this resonates a lot. What you're saying, that lists help us to be more relaxed and at ease, and to give us a sense of accomplishment, which is a wonderful feeling, to feel we have agency over our lives and we can do things instead of feeling incapable. At times in my life, I made myself feel seriously more disabled than much more disabled than I am, just because I kept telling myself, you're incapable of taking the next step, you're incapable of taking the next step. And I basically would literally paralyze myself in fear, and that's just such a miserable feeling.
I can relate with that on a lot of levels, because when we're living life at that unconscious level, we think, we're living on default. And we think that the world is doing things to us. And we think we don't realize that it's our owner, like you said in the very beginning, our own inner war. And so much of it is that we have this habit, these habits or these paradigms. They're just like an operating system in a computer. And so if the operating system is developing more and more viruses, what happens in the operating system? It bogs down. It doesn't get out to the information highway anymore and get you to your destination quick and fast. What's it doing? It's limiting you from living your best self, from living your best life, which is what you've been talking about and sharing from your book. You know?
I love is such a good example. It bogs down the operating system. Another thing that's to consider in terms of things I did to change my life is everyone says take the next step, and yes, I mean the next step in a journey of 10,000. The next step is farther along in the journey of 10,000 miles, but also by the same token, we have an opportunity to think a little bit about if we're stepping in the direction we want to go. Because before I tried yoga the first time, went to the Y and got the membership, I took a lot of steps which involved going to buy another soda from another Coke from Burger King, because I was addicted to pop back in the day, and I took a lot of those steps, and they really weren't getting me where I wanted to go at all. But why that going into the yoga or getting the Y membership that day was magical and transformed my life is because it was a tiny step that aligned with what the best part of myself wanted for my life, and so that alignment helped a lot, I think.
Oh my God, I love that. Well, and let's move into the conversation of alignment. Alignment is that thing inside of ourselves that initiates and ignites more joy, more happiness, more freedom of movement. Because when we're aligned more with, the clarity of what we really want, and then when we move into that specificity and we really start taking those action steps like you're talking about, just even baby steps like you're talking about, what you begin to start to feel and notice, and like you said, there's that willingness and that commitment that begins to happen inside your heart. And you begin, I know for myself, I started to think to myself, what friggin' took me so long,
Oh yeah. What took me so long, and that itself can be that itself used to trap me, because I used to take a good step and go, yay, and then go, oh, I should have done this years ago. What's wrong with me? And then I would go down the train of feeling bad about not doing it years ago, but really, all I needed to do is be grateful that I took the step and that it worked and that it felt good.
Oh my gosh, so true. And that's one of the things that when I had my own near-death experience, my first one in the 90s, one of the things that was said to me on the other side was that I never had to worry, that all the right people would show up at the right moment to help me move forward. And for me, the more that I did take those steps and go, yay, like you're talking about. And the little things, like somebody would show up in the moment and they would, whether it was, sharing food with me or giving me a book or $15, but there was always, from that surrender in myself, something showing up in the moment that revealed to me a solution, revealed to me a tool or an avenue to open myself up wider and bigger.
So through your surrender, a path was shown to you step by step, by opportunity by opportunity by opportunity, and you kept saying yes, huh?
I kept saying yes, and truthfully, from what I've been hearing from yourself and your own journey, it really involves living in the moment. It involves what you've shared is being willing in the moment to observe your behavior and your thoughts and be willing to shift them and to get better and better at it.
Yeah, it's definitely a skill and constant development, and even this week, my mind, I don't know why our minds do this, but even this week, my mind said, "Hey, do you want to go down this other road? It's probably going to be miserable, but I had thoughts that would take me down another road in a complete different direction, and luckily I now have the tools to say, thanks for sharing mine, but we've done that before, and it wasn't that fun, so I'll let the thought be, and then I'll go in the direction I want to go."
You just described it for the same way for me. I love that, Jason.
And it sounds so simple, and it is, but
it is.
But it's not always easy.
Right.
It's not. It takes I practice this every day. I meditated shortly before we got on the High Vibe Nation, because it's important to me, and I know if I don't practice for long enough, pretty soon the mind's going to start taking me places I really don't want to go in.
Well, and the ego is very cunning. The ego loves to have power. And so if we let it in just a little bit, then just as you're describing, it'll go full-fledged if we let it.
It'll be like, time for me to party. Yay!
Ain't that the truth? That's right. Oh my God, I love it. So tell me, what does self-worth mean to you?
It's so interesting you bring this up this week, because one of the things my mind loves to do is say, I can work real hard on my business and be proud of the people I'm impacting and how we're interacting, and it can be such a loving and high vibe experience, but then the mind will go, "Hey Jason, you're still not making the money you want to make, and maybe you should do something else. This just isn't worth it." But so to me, self-worth in the instance is going, I know my purpose. I'm making my imperfect best effort. I know my best, and when mistakes come up, I learn from them and move forward. So I know my purpose. I'm making my imperfect best effort.
Yeah.
And with that self-worth, I stay on the course I'm on. To me, self-worth helps us stay on the course we know we want to be on, instead of drifting off in some other direction.
Yeah, absolutely. How do people find and discover the best in themselves? What are some ways that they can do that?
So some of it involves remembering your dreams. Remembering the dreams you had before you started telling yourself, no, I can't do that because I'm not good at it. Or someone else told you, no, you're not good at it. And I mean, when we visualize the best we want for our lives, we don't need to have those limits. We can. It is the best we want in our hearts, and so that's how we find our best. And again, writing stuff down can help, and telling other people about it can help. And then that best is like a north star. It doesn't mean just because we thought of this best that we can be, that we'll instantly get it, that the journey to get it will be easy. But it's a north star. It's a compass point, and then we can start taking steps towards that compass point, and maybe we'll arrive one day to exactly that destination, and maybe we will arrive at some other place. But either way, we're taking steps towards the best we envision, and there's so much freedom in that. So much freedom.
You're so right. And I think it, like what we've been talking about through this whole conversation, it comes back to the moment and having that willingness to tap in to those dreams, to remind ourselves of those dreams, to feel the feeling of those dreams. And like you and I both agree, it's, for me, it's meditation. It's the willingness to be silent, to get out of my mind and just be silent. And it's from that space that, for myself, some of the greatest tools, some of the greatest ideas come, because we don't realize that everything we see outwardly was first created inwardly.
I mean, so when I hear that, it's hard to comprehend that everything was first created inwardly, but as I live it, it makes more and more sense. So quick story on that.
Yes, please.
During 2020, I moved back to South Dakota, and right now I'm actually living in my parents' basement, and it is, this time around, it's paradise, because I'm open, I'm creative, I'm doing things, I'm speaking my truth. But back in 7th grade, this was the same house where I attempted to take my own life before I called for help. The same house, the same house, the same trees all behind the house, same. But it's a whole different experience because I'm different, feel totally different on the inside. So a totally different path comes to me each day because I feel different and I am different on the inside. Does that make sense?
Totally makes sense. Absolutely. And everybody's inward journey is different. But the more that, just like we've been talking through this whole conversation, that we create those habits, that we create those non-negotiables and utilize these tools, these simple tools that we think aren't easy, and they sound simple, but in reality, if we could just strengthen that muscle daily by setting the intention. So how do you set goals for yourself?
I mean, first I want to highlight that we're talking about strengthening all these muscles through practice, and you've been a muscle builder, so
Yep.
We're talking about a kind of a little different type of muscle building here, but same principles, like practicing.
Repetition.
Get your reps in.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So what question did you ask?
I asked you how you set goals for yourself. How do you set goals right now for yourself, moving forward throughout today and your days after? Do you have principles? Do you have a process that you use?
So for I had the vision, my grand vision of impacting billions of people in my life. And that's the direction I'm headed towards. Then each day I go through all my emails and everything and everything I need to do and make a list, and then I focus on, once I have the list, I can focus on each step on the list. So in a day I'll take I don't know, a lot of steps towards my vision of speaking to billions of people in my lifetime by impacting them, but and that's not to say I'll get anywhere near that goal in a day, but like we were talking about before, I'll be on the path, and it feels good to be on the path. It feels so good to be on the path.
I feel the same way, and I feel like when you're on the path, what happens is this little child comes out of you, and you're willing to be your real self, your best self. Like I was mentioning earlier, I'm over the top playful and fun and silly. And I realize now, because, I'm 56 I always say heading towards 60 now, the next, what they call that, the next level of your life. And I realize it's okay to be that part of me. It's okay to play full out.
Yeah. When I felt miserable back in the day, I never gave myself permission to play. I was like, I need to be serious and figure this stuff out. it just got so heavy. But to play and have fun and imagine, and it's just delightful. What attracted me to waiting was the goal-oriented. What attracted me to weightlifting was the goal-oriented nature of the training. Sweet.
And we can use that principle. And when you talk about principles, we can use that same principle in addressing any habit of life, in shifting anything, because the same principle applies, like you were saying earlier, to when you know that you're moving forward towards a goal. As you create that repetition, as you create that habit and you keep doing it, what's happening? You're strengthening your mind. You're strengthening your state of being.
Yeah. You're literally training yourself for the life you want instead of in the past I would train for the life I didn't want, and that type of training was miserable. Like when I would go to Burger King and get the Cokes, I was training for the life I didn't want to lead.
Now, what is the message that you want to leave with kids today about triumph over defeat for the next generation?
I want to tell them, like we've been talking about, to dream big, to not let the dreams be limited by how they perceive the present situation, and then that and also to be patient on the journey. And in 7th grade, when I was feeling so awful, I had no patience. People would tell me things can get better, and I was like, I want them better right at this exact moment, and then not better. But with patience and practice and dreams, life can transform at its own pace, and that pace might be slower in many respects than one expects, but other ways it might be faster. And yeah, I growing up today, I thought the world, I'm a highly sensitive person, and I thought the world was very busy when I was growing up, but now there's all these other layers like the internet, and it's just so, it can be so overwhelming, and there's so many voices telling us you're a victim of this or you're a victim of that. Internal voices as well as voices in the environment, but I want kids to know that what they have within them can triumph over the victimhood, that they can turn the limits they see in their lives into profound gifts with time and practice. Again, simple message, but transformative, and a message I would love to hear. Or maybe I did hear, but I just didn't listen when I was a teenager.
I agree, because even when I was at that space where I was finally ready in myself, I remembered things that people had tried to tell me over the years. And I, like you, I wasn't ready. And so I just pushed it away. But that's one of the gifts of realizing that words are never forgotten, that seeds that have been planted can bear fruit. And so in that space and time of readiness in each of us, that comes back there. I remember Oprah Winfrey saying something years ago. She said that she realizes she's not here to convince people of what they need to do to change their lives. She's here to give a message and move forward. She's here to be the seed planter and move forward. When that person's ready to bear the fruit and harvest the fruit in their own lives, they'll remember her words. And I needed to hear that in the early days of my own awakening, because I was so kind and all I wanted to do was to save people and help people. But in the process of that, I drained my cup and I would get sick in turn. So when I began to take on that persona of realizing I'm the seed planter, I'm like yourself.
Seed planter.
Yeah, I'm the seed planter. And all that you and I as transformational speakers, we're here to help transform people's lives by just sharing our heart, by lifting people up and seeing the gift in people, no matter what the illusion is.
Yeah, I love that definition. We're here to help people see and act upon their brilliance. Yep. No matter what illusion they're suffering under.
Yeah, because go back to just even, Jesus, for example, what did he do? He met the people right where they were at and saw the gift, their brilliance, the face of the God within them, despite if they were the prostitute or, whatever they were, living in their lack or living in their limitation. He saw through it all. And he saw their brilliance for who they truly were.
That's really that's beautiful, Sherry. I love that.
And I strive to be that in myself. And it sounds like you are striving to share that gift with others as well.
To be the seed planter.
Yeah.
And that image resonates so much with me because now I'm living in farm country, and so in the spring, all the farmers are planting seeds, and they don't control exactly how tall each individual cornstalk grows, but they can plant and cultivate and.
Awesome. Well, gosh, Jason, this hour flew by, and this has just been such an amazing, heartfelt conversation. And I love how the whole conversation has been built on bringing the heart to the head, about aligning and tapping people into their hearts to remember the power that they are. And so I have posted on the screen one of your amazing gifts. And I have that on the screen currently right now. Why don't you go ahead for our podcast, tell people how they can get the interactive copy of your book.
So, simply go to the links scrolling across below, jasonwfreeman.com/book, and you won't get exactly a paper copy because it'll be an interactive copy, but the cover looks something like this, and it's the book's based on. In the book, we go on a journey together. I talk about my journey, and then I have questions at the end of each chapter, so you can take the next steps on your journey.
Oh my God, that's so awesome. And you can also get
actually awkwardly awesome to be
awkwardly awesome. I love it. I love it. And you can also get Jason's newsletter, and you can sign up on jasonwfreeman.com/sample it.
It is actually a newsletter test drive. So you can see what you're getting into, see samples and see if this resonates, if it makes your heart sing, or if you're like, I don't want this in my email. And I'm hoping it makes your heart sing.
That's so awesome. And you can also find Jason on the web at jasonwfreeman.com. You can find him on his personal Facebook page at facebook.com/jason.freeman.980. I'm sure. I love it. And you can find him on LinkedIn at Jason-W-Freeman-721-50944. And then, of course, you can find him on Instagram at Jason_W_Freeman. And of course, as always, you can find us on the internet for the High Vibe Nation at www.thehighvibenation.com, on Instagram at The High Vibe Nation, on Facebook at The High Vibe Nation. And we are live weekly on Wednesdays. And Jason, I want to thank you so much for being such a heartfelt, inspirational guest today. This is just, my heart is filled up.
Thanks for having me, Shai. This has been an extremely pleasurable conversation, a great way to spend an hour. And thanks everyone for tuning in and listening and considering these high vibe ideas.
Love it. Thank you. All right, everyone. We'll see you next week. Until then, create an amazing rest of the week. Bye now.
From everybody here at the High Vibe Nation, we want to say thank you for choosing to raise your vibration. And of course, please like, share, and subscribe. If you need to find us on the web, check us out at www.thehighvibenation.com. Looking forward to seeing you on the next episode, and keep high vibing.